What would you do if a stranger on a factory floor turned, lifted her arm, and a tiny crescent birthmark punched a hole straight through 23 years of silence? Would you call it coincidence and keep walking? Or would you bet your life that fate just tapped you on the shoulder? I took the bet, and I'm telling you right now, it cost me everything I thought I needed and gave me everything I didn't know I'd lost. My name is Vincent, and this isn't a speech or some glossy billionaire confession. It's a morning in Detroit that started with hot steel and cold coffee with a supervisor whose power trip could sour milk and a welder in a bright yellow vest who looked me in the eyes like I'd tucked her in once upon a time. Because I had when she was 3, and I called her Little Moon. I was supposed to walk the mezzanine quietly, just numbers and safety checks. Profits, up, accidents, down, espresso. Still too perfect in my hand. The kind of morning where nothing bad can happen, because everything is under control, you know what I mean. And then I heard him, Tommy Brennan, 6'2" beer belly straining the buttons, the kind of man who thinks a title turns cruelty into management. You're nothing but a useless factory worker, get back to your place. People stopped moving, that's how you know it's bad. The sound of a plant is loud, until fear shows up. Then your ear hunts the one note that's wrong, and the whole song goes quiet. I stepped to the rail, looked down and saw her sleeves rolled, gloves on vest, bright as a flare. Calm jaw, steady eyes, and when she pushed her hard hat back, I saw it. The crescent left shoulder blade 2 inches, the exact moon I used to kiss goodnight. The cup fell from my hand, shattered on the concrete. That crack split my life, clean into before and after. Tommy kept going louder now. Not today, college girl, real welders handle the important contracts, spit into a paper cup, called her an affirmative action princess, and she stood there, steady voice, smooth as a bead. I have the highest quality rating in the department, he laughed, and I don't know what happened in my head, but my hands made a decision. I grabbed him by the shirt and pinned him to a beam. The floor went dead still. You just insulted my daughter. The sentence came out of my mouth like it had been waiting years for a door to open. Security knew the drill. He was gone in a minute, still shouting lawyer words, and the woman in the vest, Keisha, was looking at me the way people look at thunderstorms, equally afraid and fascinated. You called me your daughter, she said, not loud but sharp. What did you mean? I wanted to say nothing. I wanted to say everything I chose. The only thing that wasn't a lie. We need to talk privately. Let me ask you, if it were you, what would you have done? Walk away and call it random? Or sit in a rich man's car because a stranger's eyes looked a little too much like your own? She gave me 1 hour, kept her safety vest zipped like armor, and in the Bentley I learned 2 facts fast. She didn't want my money, and she had somebody at home who needed her check. My grandmother Pearl, she said, voice soft around that name like it was made of sugar glass. She's sick. I can't lose this job. That's dignity, not defiance, the same stubborn grace her mother wore when we were young and broke and building something that hadn't learned how to stand yet. We stepped into my office and Marcus, my private investigator for 2 decades, laid out the evidence I swore I would never show anyone unless lightning struck a tiny hospital bracelet. A baby photo with that same stubborn chin, a missing person report that still smelled like stale hope, and Keisha looked at those papers like they could bite. So a birthmark and a birthday make me your kid, she said. Do you realize how insane that sounds? And she was right. So I did the scariest thing a man like me ever does. I let go. Independent lab, Wayne State chain of custody results to both of us. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Pattern interrupt. My phone buzzed with the battery dying, blocked number 6 words that changed the air temperature. We know you found her. Careful. You ever feel the room drop 10 degrees without the thermostat moving? That text did it. We swabbed anyway. Dr. Foster with the kind of calm that makes you believe in science again. 6 hours for prelim results, clean chain signatures, sealed envelopes, and then a coffee shop with mismatched chairs and a house cat that thought it owned the place where we said her name out loud. Rachel. She was fierce, Keisha said, thumb on the mug, 3 jobs, no complaints, always helping someone. And I told her how we met, permits and confusion, a family trying to open a tiny restaurant. Rachel translating for free because she couldn't stand to watch people drown in rules. I told the part I didn't want to, the part where I built an empire and convinced myself providing was the same thing as being present. Spoiler, it's not. Do you think that's fair? I'll ask you 'cause men like me are good at writing checks and terrible at checking in, and there's a difference. Marcus slid into the booth and killed whatever piece we had left. Someone sniffed our test before we scheduled it. Phone lines, calendars, an inside leak something. So we moved to his office. Swept twice this week, locks that hum because they're thinking. And I opened a box that should have stayed buried loans from people with last names. Detroit knows for the wrong reasons. Money washed through materials, inflated invoices. Exclusive contracts that don't come with clean soap. A young man's easy shortcuts that turn into a trap door you don't see until you're already falling, yeah. That happened. Here's the twist you didn't see coming. You're waiting on the DNA, but the real twist was older and colder years back when the feds closed in. I cooperated, gave testimony that blew a hole in an organization that deserved to be broken. And in that blast were men who swore to make me watch everything. I loved die. One of them didn't go to prison, Antonio patient, quiet, a grudge with good posture. So those texts, the shadows outside houses, the cars that circle without headlights, not ghosts, just men who prefer revenge, served cold. We went back to the lab right on time. Dr. Foster held 2 envelopes like they were carrying a verdict, probability of paternity. %. The number rang in my ribs like a bell. Kesha didn't move, but I could feel the floor tilt under her outside. I called her Luna by accident, and she flinched because names weigh more than metal. I've been Kesha for 23 years, she said. I don't know how to be Luna. I told her the thing I wish someone had told me when I was 32. And stupid names don't define you. Your choices do. There was never anything wrong with you. I said you were perfect. You are perfect. And if you think saying that out loud fixes 23 years, it doesn't. It just gives you a fighting chance. Mini call to action right here. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. I didn't understand danger anymore. I thought it wore heavy boots, but that night, danger looked like black SUVs that obeyed traffic laws too precisely, like phones that buzzed with the batteries pulled like an apartment, where every light went black all at once, even though an elderly woman is afraid of the dark. We drove to Pearl's building, a modest place with window boxes and a tired elevator that wheezed between floors, and as soon as we parked my phone, dead battery in my pocket, lit up anyway. Pearl sends her regards. Come upstairs alone, how I still don't know infrastructure, hack someone on my payroll, or plain old voodoo method. Didn't matter, the message said. You are not safe, and we can prove it. Marcus whispered coordinates into a radio. His team took positions, and Keisha looked at the 3rd floor window like she could will it to open. We stepped into Pearl's apartment door, ajar, family photos wall to wall, paper crowns, crooked smiles, a graduation cap that might as well have been diamonds. Pearl in her chair, wrists zip-tied, chin-high, eyes on fire. 3 men with guns bracing the doorways, and Antonio in the kitchen doorway with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Vincent, he said like he was tasting the word, you look prosperous, nice to build an empire on my family's bones. Let her go, I said. This is between you and me. Innocent. He tilted his head at Pearl. No one connected to you is innocent. Do you think that's fair? That guilt runs downhill like dirty water. Say it out loud in your head, then sit with the answer. His plan had layers. My investigators' vehicles were rigged not just to kill, but placed where the blast might rupture a gas main. Anonymous tips to the feds already sent. My company painted as a business that never got clean by morning. Accounts, frozen, contracts, dead. Employees scared, and in his coat, a contract selling 51% of my company to a shell he controlled. Sign. You live, refuse, she dies first. He nodded at Keisha. So you can watch what you did to me. That's what he wanted. Not money, not even control. He wanted me to watch. I heard the mantle clock, the buzz of a bad light. Pearl's breath, Keisha's heart, mine skittering. I reached for the pen, and Keisha reached for something else. The nerve that makes a person move when everyone else freezes. You made one mistake, she told him, voice steady the way steel sounds when it cools. You assumed my father would choose his empire over his family. Again he won't, she grabbed the contract and tore it clean in half. Antonio flinched. The third gunman looked away to follow paper. Pearl stood up inside her chair. I swear. She grew taller, snatched a cast-iron skillet from the side table and cracked the nearest knee. The sound is unforgettable. I pivoted and put a round through the second man's shoulder to keep him honest. The third fired wild. The door frame exploded in splinters and we hit a new stillness, messy, smoking, dangerous. Tell your men to lower their weapons, I said. My gun aimed at the center of Antonio's chest. Or I put you down right now. He smiled like he knew me. You won't risk your daughter for heroics. Try me, I said, and I meant it, because the man who dropped a coffee cup on a concrete floor was a different man than the one who collected private jets, you know. Then came the second twist. I promised you one, but we got two. Keisha stepped forward with her phone open to a utilities map. Those explosives, she said. They're placed wrong, too close to the gas. Main not far enough from the transformer. You detonate. You don't just kill your enemies. You take down a 4-block radius, families, kids, strangers, your own safe house included. You ready to be that man? And she held the phone like a mirror. His eyes changed. I watched it happen. Vengeance turned into math, and math didn't love him back. Sirens rolled closer. Marcus's team had found the devices and started clearing the lot. Time was a burning fuse. Keep your company, Antonio said finally, his gun hitting the floor like the end of a sentence. Keep your money, I'm tired. And for 1 second, he looked human, not a villain, just a man who'd carried a grudge too long and got bent under its weight. He left his men limped behind the sirens, painted the walls blue. I put the gun down, and my hands shook like I was teaching them to be hands again. After that night, we didn't hug our way into happily ever after. We did paperwork audits, hard conversations, therapy. I walked into boardrooms where men who hadn't been inside a plant in years told me it was a liability to fire a racist supervisor on the floor. We rewrote policies, upgraded safety, funded scholarships with my name taken off them. Marcus took over security for the company and put protections in place that didn't depend on a good boss having a good day. We bought Pearl a little house with a backyard and wind chimes that sound like laughter. And I keep a copy of Rachel's letter in my pocket, not to punish myself, to remember what matters. When the phone rings at 6 a.m., and someone wants me to choose between profit and a person. Months later, we had a small wedding in Pearl's yard. Plastic chairs, home-cooked food music that reminded me of the lullaby I used to sing when I could still lift a 3-year-old onto my shoulders, and I told my daughter what I told her. Then remember, little moon, you're marked for great things. I don't care how corny you think that sounds. It's true. Tommy, Yeah, the supervisor I fired on the floor. Got sober 6 months, then a year, now he works at the community center named for Rachel, teaches kids how shortcuts rot your bones, and he stands in the back at our Sunday dinners, like he thinks we might ask him to leave and Pearl. God bless her, always hands him a plate first because that's who she is. Antonio sent a Christmas card from Montana, a pine tree and a note some families are worth forgiving. I didn't write back, but I kept it because you don't get many miracles, and when one shows up with a stamp, you pay attention. Here's where I make it messy on purpose. Did I do the right thing years ago when I testified and shattered a crime family? Knowing the blowback might crash into my front door. Do you call that courage or selfishness? Would you forgive a father who learned too late that time is more expensive than money? Do you believe in a system that lets a man like Tommy run a floor for so long and only moves when it's embarrassed in public? Tell me the truth. If it were you in that living room, would you have signed the contract to save the day or torn it like Keisha did and dared the whole world to blink first? Would you have called her Luna or waited until she said it herself? Those little decisions are the ones that build or break a life. I used to think money could fix anything if you spend it hard enough. Money fixes bills, lawyers, calendars, money buys time. Love is a decision every morning, every phone call you don't want to make but do every night. You shut the laptop because a kid wants to tell you something boring, and it's not boring. If you listen, Rachel taught me that by leaving. Pearl taught me that by staying, and Kesha taught me that by ripping paper in half and telling a man with a gun that math was not on his side. So was I the hero or the problem who finally decided to stop being the problem? Yeah, that happened, you decide. If this hit you in the chest, if you've ever had to choose between what pays and what matters, or if you've lived through a reunion that didn't come wrapped like a movie, drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you would have done in that apartment. Tell me whether forgiveness is strength or a soft word for forgetting. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's not too late to pick up the right thing and put down the wrong one. And if you want more true stories where family and empire collide, and the heart has to vote louder than the bank account, hit like, subscribe, and keep the conversation going. I'm listening.